All right, guys. I think this is working. Can you guys hear me? Are we live? Say something in the chat. We got a chat now. Last time we had no chat. Oh, we got a thumbs up. Okay, so maybe you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me or say something in the chat. All right, there we go. Figured out how to use the chat. Yeah, I figured out how to go live on YouTube. This is the first time the Sharp Football Analysis handle has ever gone live on YouTube. So, um, all right, I wanted to go over a few NFL props with you guys, just talk a little bit, get some of your questions. So let's see here. I'll answer some of your questions. I'm sure you guys are maybe sweating out some college football here at the end of these games and getting ready for the 3:30 slate. So one of the ones that I really like for tomorrow is seems pretty obvious, but Kenneth Walker. This one, we went pretty big on Kenneth Walker. Smash that like button, peeps. Yeah, Harry Snowman. We went pretty heavy on Kenneth Walker. Um, and it's not just that he's favored by 7 points in a solid game state. Um, he is splitting carries. But some of the logic here is from a strength of schedule perspective. So I've got my strength of schedule sheets, and eventually maybe I'll figure out how to share my screen when I do this in the future, if we are to do any of these in the future. And one of the interesting things that I can share with you guys is if you run defenses here, um, the Seahawks have played the second toughest schedule of run defenses on the season. And now they're going to be playing a run defense that is substantially easier than what they faced to date. Every single opponent that they've played ranks top 10 in run defense: Denver, Detroit, New England, and Miami. Now they go up against 21st ranked Giants. And the Giants have faced two of the NFL's worst rushing attacks the last 2 weeks: the Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. So the Giants have been getting by playing terrible rushing offenses. We've been betting the unders in rushing props for the Dallas Cowboys week in and week out. The only game that we bet the over on on for the Dallas Cowboys was last week against the Giants, and we ended up getting there because the Giants' run defense is so terrible. So that shows you what we think of the Giants' run defense. This is a below 21 ranked run defense if they actually go up against some good rushing offenses, which they finally will in this game. The Giants rank both number 26 in success rate, number 26 in yards per carry, number 26 in explosive run rate. The only thing that the Giants have going for them is they allow 0.87 yards before contact, which is the fifth lowest. But they rank dead last in yards after contact per rush. Dead last, 4.2 yards per contact per rush. Um, if you split out the opponents that they've played to allow that 4.2 yards after contact, and you look at what those teams are doing prior to playing the Giants and then when they play the Giants, it's night and day different. These teams are bottom 10 rushing offenses in terms of yards after contact. The Cowboys, the Cleveland Browns, the Minnesota Vikings, except when they're playing the Giants. And then when they play the Giants, their statistics that they're putting up of over 3 yards after contact per rush puts them into the top 10 to top 15. So this Giants run defense is just a ball that like soothes the needs and wounds of any rushing attack. Um, so I think Seattle, who already ranks number 4 in yards after contact, they're already averaging 3.55 yards after contact, despite playing the number 2 toughest schedule of run defenses. I just think you're going to have some opportunities for a lot of yards after contact here for Kenneth Walker. He's back from his injury. The coach, if you listen to Ryan Grubb, Ryan Grubb cannot stop talking in his press conferences about Kenneth Walker. And that's obviously something that you want to look for when you're betting props is what are the actual play calls saying about the players. So I've been studying that a little bit more this season. If you go to so there's a few ways to play it. I'm looking at the big time upside for Kenneth Walker. So I obviously went pretty strong on the bottom rung uh, of his prop, and you could play his longest, which I played last week, or no, I didn't play last week, but it's a pretty solid bet week in and week out. We played this a lot last year. It's at 17 and a half. I like the over on that. And then I'm liking the ladders on Kenneth Walker. So this is one of the ones that we went with some ladders on. We did, let's see, what did we do? 80 plus, 90 plus, 100 plus, 110 plus, 100. We went all the way up to 120 plus. Um, which, by the way, if you guys are at all interested, you can go over to Sharp Football, go to sharp.football, and you can get on board for this week's action, week 5, for only $5. And you're going to be entered. If any of these ladder bets hit, we're going to be giving out a $100 ticket to a random person who signs up for week 5. So, what does that mean? So, for example, if Kenneth Walker uh, hits 120 plus rushing yards. We bet that. We gave it out to subs. That's at plus 800. If that hits, that gives $800 cash. That's one ticket, $800 cash. We're going to give it to one of the people that signed up for this contest. If he hits 110 plus, it's plus 500. We're giving away $500 to somebody. If he hits 100 plus, which is plus 350, we're giving 350 out to somebody. And we're going to give out multiple of these tickets, right? So if he hits 110, we're going to give out a ticket for $145 to somebody because we hit the 80 plus. We're going to give out the 90 plus rushing ticket, which is $230. We're going to give out the $350 ticket, and we're going to give out the $500 ticket. So there's 4 tickets that we're going to give out, totaling over $1,000 cash right there alone. So he doesn't even need to hit the top of this. We'll just be giving out cash. So if you want in on that, it's $5. Go to sharp.football, and that's how you can sign up. But that's one of the ones that we like. Uh, Elvis, can you find those graphs on our site? Do you have to be a member? Um, Look, we toyed around with giving these graphics out for free. I'm going to be publishing a lot more of these up on the website for strength of schedule. But these graphs, which I have here, and I go through and I annotate them and mark them all up, we toyed with sharing those uh, with subscribers, but couldn't get that. We couldn't get that squared away. So we weren't able to do that. Turn off the notification. Okay, turn off the notification. All right. Let's see what else here. Uh, okay, here's one. Let me see if this one is still available. Um, Minshew, longest, longest completion. Still there. In fact, you can get, I like this one even better. Go to DK if you want this one. Minshew longest completion under 32 and a half is minus 120. I think that's an extremely solid bet there. Um, you know how many long completions this Denver defense has given up this year of over 30 yards? 0. Denver has not given up a completion of more than 30 yards at all. And if you look, I'm trying to find, I thought I wrote down the splits for Minshew. Where would that be? Uh, yeah, here we go. So Denver plays the number 2 most man coverage in the NFL, which you can see on one of these, just to show you what it looks like. Where are we at here? There we go. So if you want to follow along with this, Denver is way down here in terms of man coverage rate, right? So this is the NFL average rate right here. Denver's um, they play the second most man coverage in the NFL. Gardner Minshew splits versus man coverage this season. He's averaging 4.3 yards per attempt versus man coverage. His longest completion is 19 yards. Against zone, 8.1 yards per attempt. He completes 79% of his passes, and he's got a 54-yard completion, and he's got, I think, one or two that might be above the 32 and a half. So um, I absolutely think that this is another good bet. Minshew under. The other thing is Denver is just a grinder of a football team. Denver's going to grind it out. It's going to be ugly. Uh, I don't think they're going to have a lot of possession for the Las Vegas Raiders here. Um, I'm waiting to see what happens with this number right now to get on the game. It's a soft 3. It's 3 minus oh 05, some 3 even, a little bit 2.5 juice. I'm waiting to see what happens with this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything on the side of this game or not. Um, but there's that. Uh, Flacco versus Indy. Okay, let's see. I don't even know how I is there a way to like highlight this? Pin message? I don't know, like, I don't know on the live stream if you can see the questions that I'm answering, like, I've seen some people do this and the question, like, pops up on the actual broadcast so everybody can see it. I don't know how this thing works. I'm not really a YouTube guy, as you can tell. So, anyway, I'll just read out the question. Somebody, uh PW Soccer asked about Flacco with the Colts going up against the Jaguars with Anthony Richardson out. So I was looking at those wide receiver props earlier. The biggest issue as it relates to this game and the passing offense of the Colts is the fact that it is probably going to be a downpour there. I'm going to pull up the latest weather. This is definitely the time of year where we have to be checking weather all the time. I've got a number of apps that I like to go to, but I was just looking at this, so I'm already here in Jacksonville. You can search for the stadium itself. So tomorrow, it's supposed to be raining all day, all night, all day. However, it's supposed to be at its heaviest rain at 1 p.m. Kickoff for this game is at 1 p.m. 1 p.m., 2 p.m. into 3 p.m. Now, we're talking rain that would be enough to impact the game, in my opinion. Um, so I'm a little bit leery. I was going to be looking if the weather was dry and I was hoping we were going to get Anthony Richardson in there. I was going to look at an Alec Pierce longest over. I have no interest in doing that right now. Flacco does throw the ball a lot more, but here's what I think it's actually going to do. I saw some. I need to go look at the Tank Bigsby stuff. I saw when Flacco got announced in, the Bigsby stuff was bet a little bit lower. I don't get that correlation at all. Uh, let me see. So Bigsby right now is 26.5. I don't get the correlation. Here's what's gonna happen with Flacco. Flacco is they're going to probably have a higher pass rate. And in my opinion, they're either going to have success on these passes and gain yards, or they're going to be incompletions. I think we're going to see a run rate that's slightly lower because Flacco is in there. So I am personally in the midst of a rainstorm, probably not going to be looked to back a lot of these overs. I will tell you, we were on the Michael Pittman under last week that lost because of Flacco. And we're under the on the Michael Pittman under for the season, and A. Rich better get his butt back here as soon as possible because I'm worried about that prop winning because of the fact that Flacco goes after his number one wide receiver, and Anthony Richardson has a less than 50% completion rate to his wide receivers, period. He is very erratic. He doesn't zone in on one guy. He's going to a lot of times his first read, or if his first read is covered, he's looking for the deepest route and he just throws the ball down the field. So that's not really where Anthony operates, and which is why he doesn't get targeted as much, and those targets are highly inefficient. With Flacco, there's gonna be a lot more underneath stuff in this range. So I would expect some higher volume to underneath stuff. I don't know yet about some of the deeper stuff. On the flip side, well, and I will say this, Jacksonville is the worst defense against deep passes. I gotta pull up this one here and just show you. This is a pretty wild just to see how far off they are. But uh, right here, this is EPA per attempt on passes thrown 15 plus yards. So these are the good defenses up here at the top. These are the bad defenses at the bottom. Look how far the Jacksonville defense is compared to all the other defenses in terms of what they're allowing from an EPA per attempt perspective on passes 15 plus yards down the field. They are terrible. So um, usually, I that's why I was targeting Alec Pierce longest, but in the rain, I'm not looking at that right now. Um, but that was one look that I had. Instead, one of the things that I kind of like is Tank Bigsby. Um, so if you're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have their opportunity. Obviously, they've had a ton of success against the Indianapolis Colts at home. They're currently laying 3 points. This would be the first win. Theoretically, if they were able to get this win, it would be the first time that they're operating in positive game script, like in the second half into the fourth quarter of a game, and feeling a little bit comfortable if it goes true to form with the point spread. As a result, more rushing opportunities naturally. The other thing is that um, Tank Bigsby, I think, is going to start eating a little bit more into ETN. He's already been doing that to an extent, but in the 2 games that he has had more than 2 carries, so he's had 2 games where he's had more than 2 carries. He's gone for, what's the numbers here? Let me pull it up here. Here we go. He was obviously injured after week 1. 73 yards and 90 yards. Those That's his rushing yardage total when he's had more than 2 carries in a game. His rushing yard prop is 25 and a half. You can find at Caesars, at DK, 26 and a half at FanDuel, 26 and a half at DraftKings, 25 and a half at Hard Rock, 25 and a half at Pinnacle. Um, I'm not looking at like the base case scenario though for Bigsby. So this is a rare situation where I didn't actually even bet his 25 and a half rushing yards prop. What I did in this one is I bet his longest over. I want to say that was it was really low. That's why I honed in on it. It was 10 and a half, which is extremely low. Now they're basing it because they don't think he's gonna get a lot of carries. But last week he had 7 carries. I wanna say ETN had 11. That was in a loss to the Houston Texans. The Indianapolis Colts run defense statistically looks okay, but man, I can't show you this because I don't have a way to actually, maybe I can bring it up on my phone. Yeah, this might work. I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if you can see this, but this is week 1 over here, okay? Week 2, 3, 4, and week 5, Jacksonville Jaguars. The green This is the ranking of these teams in their rushing offense, okay? Green is bad, 32 is bad. So the Steelers are 29, the Bears are also tied for 29, the Texans are 24 in terms of rushing efficiency, the Packers are 19, the Jaguars are all the way at number 3. So this is gonna be what I like to call a shock to the system. This is a shock to the system of the Indianapolis Colts run defense, and the Indianapolis Colts run defense has already lost, um, Kwity Paye, who just got ruled out. They're down 4 defensive linemen for the start of the year. We were talking, internally before we bet on some of these props. Myself, Rich Rebar, Ray Summerlin. Um, Buckner and Ebukam were already ruled out. Tyquan Lewis went on IR this week. Hay was ruled out. I just think you're gonna get some movement in the trenches to open up some of these holes for, for Bigsby, and so Bigsby is one of the guys that I'm big on, and what I decided to do with Bigsby is I took his upward scenario, expecting that he's gonna break a nice sized run here in the rain, might get a little bit more rushing volume. We also know why was one of the reasons that the coaching staff was trying to work in Bigsby a little bit more, because ETN has a fumbling history. And so now they're playing in the rain and trying to get their first win. I imagine there might be some more opportunities here for him to have some success. So I took ETN's longest and sorry, Bigsby's longest over 10 and a half. And then I just alted him. And I went stronger on the alts than I normally do. So I went 40 plus at plus 260, 50 plus at plus 500, and 60 plus at plus 900. So if you wanna join in on that, I decided to go with some Bigsby in the rain in Jacksonville. It's sort of a play weather. Um, it's a prop that's based a little bit on the weather right there. Um, let's see. So that's my thoughts on that game, Tom. What do we got here in these games? Okay, Pitt got that cover. All right, Marshall's up 7-0. Mississippi and Ohio State game. Those are the 2 crowning jewels of this slate, huh? All right, let's see. Alan Lazard over 17.5 longest. Do you know what the weather is there, Raylo McFly? Raylo McFly's asking about that game. Um, I'm interested to see what that weather forecast is. I know the stadium blocks out the wind a little bit, but we are forecasted for some rain. Yeah, you got to check the weather here. Um, I do wonder if the surface is a little bit hard and it's wet, how that footing is going to do for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, dealing with a knee that he says is fine. He practiced in full on Friday. Um, this game right now, I think it's gonna there's going to be Jets money that's coming in. This line swung way too much towards the Minnesota Vikings after last week's games, right? The Jets barely lose to the Denver Broncos. The Vikings barely beat the Green Bay Packers, even though they were up huge earlier on in the game. And now that line swung all the way to 2.5. I think it might have touched 3 at some spots. And I think it's going to drop back. I think we're going to get some Jets money. So if you're interested in teasing the Jets or doing something with the Jets, I believe now is probably the time. If you're interested in taking something with the Vikings, I would wait. I think you're going to get it's right now. There are 2.5s, but there's some twos. You might be able to get a better number than 2 if you're interested on the Vikings. Um, okay. Yeah, exactly, Aaron. Questionable field conditions being overseas. I've heard that this field surface is a little bit harder than most. Um, and obviously, if we're going to have it a wet track, typically that helps the offensive linemen in their pass pro. Typically, it helps the receivers in the routes because they know how they're going to be cutting. So we'll have to see how this plays out. If it's a heavy rain or if it's a super light rain, this game's at 9:30, obviously, uh, tomorrow morning, East Coast time, 3:30 local time over in London, but 6:30 a.m. if you're on the West Coast. So if you really want to check about the weather, you're gonna have to get up super early to do that. Um, uh, let's see if I got another one here for you. So this whole Packers situation is pretty interesting. This Packers situation with Dobbs is pretty interesting. Um, look, Twitter can be an interesting place. Um, last night out comes this report in SI Sports Illustrated that says that Dobbs is unhappy with his role and he didn't show up to practice because he's not happy with his role. Now, study the words I'm saying carefully. Because he's not happy with his role. That's what the report said. And um, they went to his house to see why he didn't show up because he's not answering his phone and he's just sitting at his house. That was the report that came out, and that's the report that was filed. So I commented on that as well, saying last night, saying, this guy is sad and unhappy that he's not playing. And I linked to the report. But suddenly, out of the woodwork, people come out to say, like, "Oh, well, you don't know the situation. You don't know that he's got, he might have some mental thing going on." Of course, I don't know that. I'm reading a report on Sports Illustrated. I'm not from Green Bay. I don't know what's going on up there. I'm reading a report and sharing that report publicly. Um, so I'm taking the reporter at his word that um, it has to do with the fact that he's unhappy with his role, if we're to trust the reporter. This has nothing to do with trusting me. I'm just sharing the information, sharing the source. Um, there's a pretty respectable, what is this, on Twitter? Pretty respectable. I like him. I follow him. Cheesehead TV. So I follow this Twitter handle called Cheesehead TV. Apparently, they do videos. They got a lot of good information. They too were sharing this, and like he deleted a bunch of social media stuff. And then Aaron Nagler, who also reports on Green Bay that I follow, and he does a great job. He was also commenting on how this guy was unhappy. So I don't know exactly what's going on with him. But what I can tell you is this: the team obviously doesn't think that it's some sort of an issue that is only Dobbs' well-being and health and that sort of thing, because they actually suspended him. They suspended him. Today it came out that they officially suspended him. So what is that going to do to this offense? Well, it was interesting. The total on this game is still at 49, 48 and a half, 49 points. So that really didn't affect it at all. But now you have Christian Watson down, and you have Romeo Dobbs, who's not going. I also heard that he doesn't like to fly. I mean, I don't know what you could believe on Twitter, but somebody was saying he doesn't. He has a fear of flying and doesn't want to fly again after the flight to Brazil. He doesn't want to fly. I don't know. Somebody said that in my mentions. I ended up deleting the tweet. I rarely do that, but I just didn't want to deal with the people who are making some of these accusations. Because I don't know the situation. So, um, in any case, how does it impact this game? Well, naturally speaking, you're going to have more targets to Jayden Reed. You're going to have more targets to Dontavian Wicks. Wicks had a ton of targets in the last game, and there have been games that he's had a lot of targets this season. His catch rate is terrible. I was looking last night. I went through the play-by-play. I went through and actually watched every single one of his targets last night. And the amount of targets that he has that are incompletions due to his own fault, like the receiver's fault, whether it's dropped, bobbled, contacted by the defender, like a variety of things, is pretty alarming. It seems like the team's giving him the chances, but certainly Reed is the more reliable target that's going to be most likely to catch these passes. So what I ended up doing for the game, and this is just what I decided to do. You guys can take this and think about it and do what you wish to do. I ended up going with Jayden Reed's longest reception over. This was actually one that Rich Rebar really liked, and sort of originated himself on this. So just the downfield targets that he's getting, the style of defense of the cover three that the Rams like to play, Jayden Reed is going to have a lot of opportunities down the field to have some big plays. And so he's going to need to be he's going to need to be targeted, and I think he's going to catch at least one. So it was 24 and a half, went over his longest. I then played the upside on Dontavian Wicks, given that I think he's going to get the targets, but I don't know if he's going to catch them. So I went with some alt receptions there at like 6+ and 7+ for Wicks. Um, and knowing that, like, if he doesn't catch him, I haven't risked a whole lot. But if he ends up having a good day in the dome and can catch these passes, there's a good chance he is going to have 6 or 7 catches rather than just going over like the 3.5, 4.5, which is what the line was and is currently. And then the one that I mainly focused on though is the tight end, Tucker Kraft, because I saw early in the week that Luke Musgrave was dinged up with his ankle and didn't practice on Wednesday. And so I ended up going pretty hard on Tucker Kraft, and I did some ladders on Tucker Kraft as well. I hit his receptions, which was 3.5 plus 122 when we released it to subs. I hit his receiving yards over at 31.5. Let's see what his receiving yards is now. Let's see what this is. Uh, it's up to so it's all over the place, but as these things usually are, the best numbers at DK right now, 37.5 minus 120. It's as high as 39.5. Oh, no, I see 40.5 actually out there. Um, we ended up getting so if you're a sub this week, which like I said is $5 for the week, just go to Sharp Football and you can see how you don't even need a coupon code. Um, we got it at 31.5. And then I took some of the alts, again, 40, 50 plus, just betting those up to see what the peak is there. The other thing I ended up doing that Rich was big on, so I decided to go with Rich's gut here. Um, Rich's gut, Michael, I could tell you where, if Jack, if you're still listening, there's a page that we do offer that we have college props. We need to sync that up a little bit better with the college props are having a good season. They're profitable. They're coming on stronger now, though. They've been doing really well lately. Um, Jack, I don't know if you're able to post that into the chat or not, the link to sign up for college props, if you can do that. Um, but Rich is big, big, big on Josh Jacobs. He thinks Josh Jacobs could be huge in this game. And part of his logic and his rationale is this. Let me share it with you. Uh, Let me go to his rationale here, guys. There you go. I think Jack just posted it for you, Michael. College props. We had we went 2-0 last night, I think, um, on college props. So it's a great. It's really inexpensive because this is our first year doing them, and it's not available in every state. So if you can't bet college props, don't go to try to buy the package. You're not going to be able to bet them. But if you're in a state where you can bet college props, those player props are going to win you money this year. You're already up on the season, um, and it's getting better and better as the weeks are going by here. Let me see here what Rich had an interesting point. Oh, there's another one. Let me pull this picture up. We'll go to Slack because we I Slack this over to them with the strength of schedule. Where is it here? This is a pretty interesting one. Okay, you can see that. So this is the Green Bay Packers schedule of run defenses faced. I don't know if this makes for good YouTube content or not. It's probably not, but again, maybe you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, or if you think this is fine. But um, as you can see here, these are the run defenses that the Green Bay Packers have faced. So they played the Vikings last week, the Titans the week before, and the Colts, which I said the Colts run defense I don't think is as good as their metrics are showing because of their schedule, but they still rank now, right now, where they do. But they've played three good run defenses, or even if you say the Colts aren't good, the Vikings and the Titans are ranking top 10. Now they get the Rams, who rank number 29. Massive step down in competition. And what Rich was saying is that, where the hell is this? Rams face 32 backfield opportunities per game. Um, so the Rams teams end up running the ball a lot against the Rams because the Rams run defense sucks. As I showed you here, they're 29th, fourth worst in the NFL. Um, and teams just are having success on the ground, so they don't turn to the air that much, which is why ordinarily in a game like this, I am not going for all these Packers receivers because they've got too many of them, and there's not going to be enough volume, in my opinion, to have all these guys hit. But now that the targets are so clearly defined, I feel like I could pick my spots here a little bit easier, and then rely a little bit more on the run game. And I'd be shocked if you don't. win elements of this. Like, so I also altered some of the Josh Jacobs because of the comments that Rich was sharing there. Um, so Tom, love this. I appreciate that, Tom. Like I said, this is the first time we're doing it. I'm just sharing some of these on a Saturday afternoon as we're watching some of these college games, and sometimes I'll give you something that that we gave to some of the subs, and maybe I'll do this again next week. We'll see. It's a quiet day. It's a beautiful day outside, though. I don't know where you guys live. Out here on the East Coast, the weather just, I mean, it's been raining for days, cloudy, overcast, and so today is just a gorgeous day. So the rest of the family went out. They're doing things, um, and I am just watching college football. I got a workout in, feeling good, working on props and the rest of my college stuff here today. So, um, was happy to jump on here for a few minutes and test this out. I tried to do it like a week or two ago. The timing didn't work out. I told you guys on the Sharp Football Show that I wanted to try to do one of these and just see what the turnout is. And if there's not enough people on a Saturday afternoon, everybody's watching college football games. I understand it. We won't do this again. But if you guys like it and if you guys like the time, we could do it again. Um, and I'll share some more stuff with you and try to answer a couple more of your questions. Um, Another one here that I took this morning. Let me see. Let me first check the weather. I wanna check the weather in Chicago. Let's see how this wind is doing. I haven't looked back at the weather forecast yet today. I know, is anybody watching that Northwestern game? How's that wind there? I don't have that one pulled up on my best screen. I don't know what this. I think that game is on underway now. So I don't know what the score is like there. Um, but in Chicago for tomorrow, Sunday, right now, okay, by my most reliable weather app. Is this mic working? I guess so. 18 miles per hour winds up to 19 mile per hour with gusts 27 to 28. That's fairly windy enough. And so this one was passed along to me by one of my betting group partners. Um, so credit to him. But I shared this on yesterday's show as well. But one of the guys that I work with and speak with on a daily basis, uh, Andy Dalton longest completion. You could still get this at MGM. I can't bet a lot at MGM, being honest, but you can get it at MGM 34 and a half minus 140 to the under. You can get it at Hard Rock 34 and a half minus 120 to the under. If you're at ESPN Bet, it's 33 and a half minus 120. Uh, then some of the spots, don't go to FanDuel. FanDuel has it 31 and a half minus 110. DK 32 and a half. Um, Andy Dalton's longest, that was one. That was a look based upon weather. So we went under on that one. Also, the matchup, and the Bears are weak up front. You're gonna have some rushing success by the Panthers. The Bears are strong in the back. They're secondary. Um, I think Dalton's pass protection is going to be good. They have a good offensive line. The stats are better. It's like the best unit on the entire Panthers team is that offensive line to give Dalton protection, which is why it's so wild that Bryce Young struggled so much. Can you imagine Bryce Young behind a legit bad offensive line? I mean, that this is why I think this guy just might not be it, might not be in for the NFL, right? This is one of the better pass blocking offensive lines in the NFL is the Carolina Panthers. And he just it's year two and he just apparently couldn't cope and he's gone. So at any rate, I absolutely think that Dalton one is pretty solid, and there's some good numbers still available on it, for his longest under. A rushing attempts one that I like. By the way, what do you guys think of this hat? Look at that hat. I think this is a phenomenal hat. Um, we might have to figure out how to run these. If you guys would want this hat too, we did a special run for some of the guys on our site. I think we got one to Rich and somebody else. But if you guys want us to sell these hats, we could do that. I don't know if anybody would want to buy it, but I certainly like it. Uh, Jayden Daniels rushing attempts over 9.5. So let's talk about this prop for a second. Let me pull up Jayden Daniels stats here. If we do this again, I might be a little bit more organized here. I'm just pulling up stuff on my databases and stuff as we go. Um, Tom, you want the hat? Yeah. Well, we you like the hat too, Snowman? Yeah, I appreciate that. The question is not though. I'm happy that you like it. Would you buy one? Because we got to figure out if we want to print enough to sell. So that's the real question here. Okay, Jaden Daniels rushing attempts. Week 1, 16. He averaged 5.5 yards per rush. And the coach, Dan Quinn, came out and did not like that. He said, "You got to stop running the football. You got to slow it down. We don't want you running the football." Week 2, he had only 10 rushes for only 44 yards, but the key is 4.4 yards per rush. Week 3, 12, but only 39 yards. His yards per rush, follow me here, from 5.5 week 1 to 4.4 week 2 to 3.3 against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 3 in prime time. And then last week, he only ran the ball 8 times. He did have a 5.9 yards per carry average because the Arizona Cardinals defense stinks, doesn't get it doesn't get after you, doesn't get pressure on you. And so he had the opportunity when he did run to gain more yardage because that defense is just not good, but he only ran the ball 8 times. Partially, I think it was because Game State, right? They're up, they're destroying them. They don't need to press it as much. So that was one reason. Second reason is they don't get a lot of pressure. Arizona doesn't generate a lot of pressure. Let me see where they sit on the. I already know where they are. I just want to show you if I can find it here. There we go. They're out of order. Where are we at? Where are we at? Okay. All right. Look at this one here. Okay. It's getting blown. All right. Defensive defensive pressure versus havoc rate. This is defensive pressure. Okay, these are the teams that get the most pressure over here. These are the teams that get the least pressure over here. All right. They're down here tied for like one of the last in the NFL, one of the worst in overall pressure rate. And their havoc rate. What is havoc? Havoc is sacks, interceptions, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, pass breakups, all that is part of havoc. What percentage of plays do you generate havoc on? They're down here at the bottom. These are the best. So, like, team like the Vikings or the Dolphins actually up here, the Seahawks, the Broncos, these are teams that are generating havoc and getting pressure. Teams down here, uh, these are the ones that are not. And so the Arizona Cardinals down here are one of the worst at generating pressure, right? Now, look at the contrast. This is where the Cleveland Browns are. I don't know if you can see that. They're hidden behind the San Francisco 49ers and Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to generate a lot more pressure. And Jaden Daniels has in college, this was true, and it's true in the NFL, one of the highest scramble to pressure rates in the league. So when he gets pressured, he likes to scramble. I don't know how many design runs they're gonna have for him, but I feel like we're gonna get a lot of scrambling out of Jaden Daniels. I don't know how many yards those are going to gain because he's also been very, tentative with how he is actually getting, uh how he is reacting once he gets past the line of scrimmage and defenders are nearby him. He's been trying to protect his body. He's been trying to get down. He's not fighting for those extra yards like he was doing in college. So I feel like his yards per carry on scrambles is probably higher than some of the designed run stuff. But I also feel like he's not going to go and get that extra yard unless the man coverage that the Cleveland Browns play, coupled with the high pressure, creates just a great opportunity for him to gain chunk yards. So I'm not saying I don't necessarily like the yardage over for Jayden Daniels, but I do think we're going to have, he's got 16, 10, 12, and 8. The time he had 8 rushing attempts was against a defense that gets no pressure in a game that they blew the opponent out. Now they're going up against the Browns, totally different as I showed on the graphic. More opportunities for pressure, higher scrambles. I think he's going to be going over and have at least 10 rushing attempts here. And that was at plus money. You can get that at plus money. The prop is 9.5, but it's juiced to the under, so you can bet the over and get some plus money. Um, let's see here. Joe, we could, Tom, we could make the hats available. You Hunter would get it if he has a lower profile trucker hat. Lower profile trucker hat. Are you talking about? Are you talking about something like this? I got this at the Super Bowl in Los Angeles, obviously, a few years ago. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. I don't know what you mean, but yeah, I don't know what the profile is of this. Um, at any rate, let's see. Any props for the Broncos offense tomorrow? Did I bet anything for the Broncos? So we're fading Minshew to an extent. Um, I think, this Trey Tucker kid, I think Trey Tucker receptions over 3.5 at plus money was an interesting look as well. I just think you're gonna have to incorporate him. So I looked at that one. Unders on Minshew. No, don't have anything on Denver. What do you like on Broncos offense, Joel? What do you like on their offense tomorrow? Let's see here. Uh, spot props. You tune into the stream again. Okay, P3. We'd appreciate it. I'll try to give more notice if we do it again. If you guys want more notice, I can try to give more notice on this. I kind of just had some time, wanted to jump on here. Um, but yeah, I don't want to. You guys got any other questions? Uh, I just want to throw out a few props and just chat with you guys here. Anything worth talking about in Arizona, San Francisco? So that's an interesting total. That total dropped, Elvis. That total was sitting at 49 and a half, 50. It's now down to 48 and a half, 48 and a half at Circa, DK, Heritage. Uh, that's where it's 48 and a half. Um, you know, I thought it was pretty shocking that we saw the downgrade of their tight end, Arizona's tight end today, after missing last week's game due to a concussion. Now, supposedly because of the ribs, he has been downgraded. So that's a big loss. Why am I forgetting his name right now? Trey McBride. I don't know. I don't know how he suddenly hurts his ribs on a Saturday uh, after having a concussion 2 weeks ago, and now he's practicing, but his ribs. He must have gotten hit, suffered the concussion, and now his ribs are bothering him too much to play, is the only thing that makes sense. And that's obviously a blow to the Arizona Cardinals because they did not look right. Um, the one thing that's interesting about this game, if you look back at the 49ers, whose offense has put up points against the Arizona Cardinals every single time they play them, the one interesting aspect to them is almost all of those games have been without Kyler Murray. Go back and look through the game log of when the Cardinals have played the Niners. Every single game has been a backup quarterback except for last year. Last year, Kyler Murray was in there because he was healthy at the end of the season because he missed the beginning of the season, recovering from his ACL. Uh, so that's one interesting aspect to that game. And I was looking at some Brock Purdy passing props just because he's not going to get pressured. And if you look, let me see. 49ers pulled up here. Schedule. The 49ers now taking on the Cardinals. This is the 3rd straight defense, that pass defense that stinks that they've played. They played the Rams, who are terrible. They played the Patriots, who are terrible. And the Patriots now are down without Jabril Peppers as well. And now they're going to be playing the Cardinals. The first 2 weeks of the season, they played some better pass defenses. So, in terms of the Jets and the Vikings. So, this is an opportunity for Purdy to theoretically feast. I've also thought it was very interesting how Kyle Shanahan just has taken out play action entirely. Look at this. Let's see if I can find this one here. Yeah, this is a crazy one. This is crazy. Okay, top one here, play action usage. All right, this is a play action usage from left to right. These teams use play action a lot, right? The Lions, the Jaguars, the Cardinals, the Browns. So it doesn't help them. EPA with play action. Sean Watson stinks using play action, but they use it a lot. Who the Niners are. I mean, the Niners have the number one highest EPA per pass attempt when using play action, the best in the league, but they are now using it the lowest rate. Kyle Shanahan used to be like 3, 4 years ago, heavy play action, heavy pre-snap motion, like into all that stuff. Now he removed play action entirely. It's just I've got Brock Purdy, I'm dropping back and we're chucking it down the field. And it's been or we're running the ball. It's just been crazy to watch how little play action the 49ers use. I mean, this is early downs in the first 4 quarters. You don't want to look at third downs. You want to whenever you're looking at play action specifically, a lot of these stats I strip out third downs anyways because that's entirely based upon down and distance. Has nothing to do with the overall game plan. So I look at early downs primarily. This is early downs in the first 3 quarters. They're like 10 and 10.8%, something like that. Just wild how little play action they're using. The audio got bad? I don't know. Well, maybe that's a sign to stop this, at any rate. Shared a bunch, had some fun, gave you guys a few props, hopefully they win. If you want all the rest of the stuff over at Sharp Football for only $5, you can go there. Go to Sharp Football the whole weekend. You can get the rest of, the weekend for $5. This stuff's not gonna happen next week or any other week. That's just a nice little promo for you guys. Get all the props. Appreciate you all jumping in here and hanging out for a little bit. And try to do this again. Well, make sure you're tuning in and subscribing to the show because the Tuesday show, I'll have another guest. And actually, this guest is going to provide some unique insight and some scoop on that Green Bay Packers situation with Romeo Dobbs because he's got a little first-hand knowledge of it. Um, you're probably not going to be able to guess who the guest is just based upon that hint. But he's not Jordan Schultz; it's a new guest. Um, so we will be bringing Jordan on again. So good luck. Let's watch some college football here, and let's win some money on these props tomorrow. All right, guys. No, not Joe House, Aaron. Good guess, though. I love Joe. You really think Joe House has inside information on the Green Bay Packers situation? That would be crazy if he did. But great dude. Looking forward to hanging with him again. He came over here for the crab feast that we had right out there this summer. Sad that I'm not doing stuff with him this year, but he's doing good in DC. All right, everybody. Good luck.